No, I know, sweetheart. I know. So I asked Uncle Robbie, so he's going to be my power of attorney, okay? Only because he's here, you're in Canada, but at least he has control over my wishes for the benefit to you. So R.I.P can't do anything. Okay? Okay, so now I can't remember how old I was or how old you were. All I know was I was in my bedroom, probably listening to music and driving Mum up the wall playing the same song over and over and over again, when I heard a thud. So I'm like, oh, I walk out the door, go to the landing, look over the landing and see you have fallen down the stairs. Well, I find that highly amusing and I'm pissing myself laughing. You looked up at me and said she pushed me. And then I got told off.
All a pack of lies.
Yeah, got a smack from Dad. I was professing my innocence, I didn't do it, but no, you stuck with it. And I think we both ended up getting a smack because he couldn't work out who was lying. Okay, so Dad worked at Tesco's on, was it Kiln Farm or Mount Farm?
Mount Farm.
Mount Farm. I worked there as well. One of the guys there was called Rick Keats. And he'd lost his dad, hadn't he?
Yeah.
And Dad sort of semi-adopted him. He was like our big brother, and he'd come round and visit and this, that and the other. And he was a 5-down black belt in karate. And we're standing in the hallway and he's doing all this arm things, this, that and the other, and then like tapping me round the face, pissing me off, yeah?
Mm-hmm.
And Grandad turned around and said, he's just doing that to confuse you. So light bulb, and I just kicked him between the nuts.
I know, he sort of dropped to his knees and went, ooh.
Yeah. Didn't see that coming, did you?
What would you say were your favourite bands of the 80s? Like 70s into 80s?
Okay, so when I was dating Paul Stone...
He was the football player, weren't he? From,
that lived in Leighton Buzzard.
Yeah.
We went to a pub, we frequented a pub, I believe it was called the 8 Bells. Right up the top of the high street.
Right.
Now, Kajagoogoo drunk there.
Right.
And Lamal, that sang the song from the Never Ending Story,
yeah,
the bass player was getting married and we all got invited to the wedding, so I actually attended the wedding.
Cool.
Yeah.
And what were your favourite bands of that era? I know you like Duran Duran.
Duran Duran, Depeche Mode, Human League.
Police?
Oh, Police, still like the Police. That was Rick's fault. Regatta de Blanc, I remember that, the album.
And there was, what was the other ones? Teardrop Explodes.
Teardrops Explode,
yeah. Because you can turn around and say, something happened with the front door, didn't it?
Oh my God, yes. Okay, so it was summer.
No, it was winter.
I thought it was summer.
I think it was winter. I think it might.
Maybe there was 2 times then. No, there's 3 I can think of now. When I was little, so
yeah.
I'm thinking I was maybe 6, you were maybe 3. So our front door, and then you go up the path,
yeah.
and then there's the garage.
Yeah.
So I'm running from the sofa in the living room, down the hallway, up the path, touch the garage, turn around, run back again.
Yeah.
As I come running back down the path, your little face comes along and you go slam and shut the door. And my arm goes straight through the glass plate window.
Yeah.
Is that true? Am I the blame for that or not? Where are you?
I don't know.
Where are you, Mum?
Don't know. I don't know how it happened, but I know she put her arm through the door.
Thank you, honey. Yeah.
Right through the glass
So
door.
apparently I'm the blame for that as well.
Yeah, there was another time. Now I know one was in winter, but I believe one was in summer as well. It was cold. I'm outside, I want to get in. You've decided you're not going to let me in and I'm freezing. So I'm bashing on the door, but I put my fist through the window. And you thought that was highly amusing because you wouldn't let me in. But the summer one, I'm sure the ice cream van was coming. And again, I'd gone out to get an ice cream, come back down and think, again, you shut the door on me.
It happens, you know.
Yeah.
Strange things have happened.
And again, me, fist-handed, you know,
Yeah.
bashing on the door. So I put my fist through that window quite a few times. We both got new bikes. I don't know if it was for Easter or something, possibly, maybe. So we both took our bikes and drove opposite directions round our block. And when we joined each other, once we'd gone round, we collided with each other and got all scraped up.
And that would have been your fault as well.
Yeah.
Because you're older. Go on in.
So the Bluey, there was
Yeah.
a Mount Farm at the back of
No,
us,
back of lakes, yeah.
back of the lakes. We'd go over there to play
Yeah.
war.
Yeah.
So we would get corrugated pipes, that would be the tank turret.
Yeah.
We'd get bits of rocks, which were ammo.
Yeah, I know,
And we
because
throw 'em at
you
each
used to
other.
have lumps of mud and when they went to a lot of hand grenades.
Yeah.
And they say
So-
I've got a scar on my
So we
finger.
officially joined the army. I was lieutenant. Oh God, what else did we do?
So
Go.
buried him in
So
the
tell
garden.
us about George the tortoise.
Fred.
Fred?
Yeah.
Oh no, it's George.
I called everything Fred.
I'm sure, no, it's George the tortoise. It's definitely George the tortoise.
Okay, I always remember him as Fred.
Okay.
Okay, Freddie George, George Fred, Ringo Starr, whatever, yeah?
Mm-hmm.
So, we go out to go and see our tortoise, and we can't find Fred or George anywhere, nowhere to be seen. And we've got a little fish pond at the bottom of the garden, and we go and look in there, and there he is, swimming at the bottom, because he's decided he wants to have a part in Nemo, and he's now a turtle. And Dad comes out, and he's like, yeah, cold, shivering, we've got to help him out here. Couldn't think what to do. Obviously mouth to mouth's not going to work, so the next best thing is to put him under the grill in the oven and dry him out. So Dad did that, put him in his box with his straw and heat and everything else, and yes, he did survive a few days, and then we come to see the box, and his head had fallen off, and yeah, we buried him.
Yeah, his shell's still in the garden
Yeah,
somewhere. I don't know
yeah.
whereabouts, but he's definitely buried there. Okay, tell us about your working career.
Okay, so my work history. I loved school, but I'd already decided I wanted to be an architect because Dad had a big influence on drawing. And the one thing I'd done was drawn a kettle that it took me a month, but it was spot on with the shadows and the sizes and everything. I was so proud of that bloody kettle. And at school, boys could do home economics if they stayed in sixth form.
Yeah.
Girls couldn't do technical drawing. I know I kicked up a stink about this. And they said, well, if you stay on in sixth form, we'll let you do it. And that was my stepping stone to get to where I wanted to go.
Right.
So I decided to stay on, but they put me in metalwork theory for a bloody year. So that was a load of crap. So I was like, no, stuff this, I'm leaving. I don't know if I see the job in the Citizen or something, but there was a job for a kitchen designer at Flair Plan Kitchens on Mount Farm, that is, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah. And they wanted you to have ONC and HNC, which are drawing qualifications, which
Yeah.
I didn't have. Because you didn't have CAD then, it was all freehand.
Yeah.
So I just went along with my portfolio, which included the kettle I'd drawn and different drawings I'd done over the years myself. I just turned up full of it and said, look, it's evident I can draw. I don't have the qualifications you want, but you'd be an idiot if you don't take me on because I'm a good learner. Blah, blah, blah. Sold myself at the interview. I said, I expect a phone call this afternoon. Walked out. They called me the day after and said, right, come down and join. So I started working for them. And because it was all, you know, with ink, pens
Yeah.
and everything under fluorescent lights, within a year my eyesight was totally done.
Yeah.
It was too much. Well, I went into work one day and I got a phone call saying, oh, I hear you're closing down. First I'd heard, well, apparently we've gone into liquidation because we've been bought out by Gruco Kitchens, which was a German company.
Yeah.
So we were going to be made redundant. And I'm like, oh, God, I've never been in that position before. And Dad working at Tesco's for the silkscreen print, I was like, oh, I wonder if I can get in CAD there because they had
Yeah.
CAD. So I'd gone to London to stay with Nan and Gramps because
Yeah.
I was feeling a bit sorry for myself and wanted a getaway.
Yeah.
But I'd sent off a resume, an email, before I'd left. And when I was there, I got a phone call saying, we're impressed with your resume, can you come back Monday for an interview? So I went back, went for the interview, and they said they didn't have anything in CAD, but did I want to work in merchandising,
Yeah.
where I'd get all the talkers together and set up new stores and everything, and work on the collation line, getting the tickets all put together. So I started working there, and you was like in a TARDIS little phone box where you took the calls and done up your library and that. Again, we were in a position where we'd heard that maybe we'd be made redundant, and I'm like, I don't want to be in that thing again. I mean, a lot of the guys there, even Dad, had worked there for years and years. I'd only been there a little while, so there I thought, what do I want to do? So there was different jobs. There was one in accounting, because I've been doing an accounting course on my own fruition in the evenings at Warburton College, which is where I met Andra, although I also ended up knowing her because she worked at the courts.
Yeah.
I applied for another selling position. There was another drawing position, and there was one in the law courts, because I couldn't do an office job. I had to be something different. So I applied for all these jobs, and I ended up picking one. I went back to drawing again. I ended up actually working for Milton Keynes Council. So when you drive down the dual carriageway, you have bus stops, and then you have bridges across the dual carriageway. So when you get off the bus, you can then go up the steps, cross the bridge, so you can get to your estate. My job was to work out the bending schedules for the metal for them to build the bridges. So there's different bridges you can see when I know I did that one, I did that one, I did that one. Once that became my job, it wasn't my hobby anymore. And they were all a bit stiff, upper lip, pompous farts that didn't think a woman could do that. Yeah. I was like, I'm going to stay in this. So the other jobs had come through about a month later, because then you'd apply for something, there was a closing date, then you wait for that, and then it'd be a first interview, then it was a bit more of a process rather than just turning up and going, do you want to hire me? And I got offered all the positions I applied for, but I picked the law court one because I thought, well, it's an office job with a difference.
Yeah.
Then I ended up staying there for...
Feels like forever.
26 years. Because I left there when I was 36, because that's when I went to Canada.
Yeah.
I took a career break because I'd had Liberty. And I worked in the criminal division, the family division. I did run some of the courts myself, the warrant courts. They did ask me if I wanted to train to be a lawyer, but I'd had Jake, and the time it would have took away for courses, and that wouldn't have been fair on him as a mum, so I didn't do it. I did go to the coroner's office and take part in autopsies, because my warped mind loves all that. I did go on intel with the police force. I did shoot with the police force down in the basement. There was a lot of different things to do, but I loved working there. Absolutely loved it. There was a saying that I knew more of the defendants than I did the staff. But yeah, that was good. And then, of course, I went to Canada, and I was like, okay, what am I going to do? Because obviously I was a paralegal, for want of a better word.
Yeah.
But although law's law, it doesn't translate the same way in Canada because it's different statutes.
Right.
Now, I couldn't work at the time because I was waiting for my permanent residency. And Liberty and Jake used to go bowling on a Saturday. Take them down to do their little bowling thing. And there was a lady there, Dana, can't remember her last name. And I told her I got my permanent residency. I said, no, I don't really know how it works out here. They do their interviews a bit differently out there. You actually send a thank you card after the interview to say thank you for... They're all super polite type thing, yeah? And she said, well, they're always crying out for people at the hospital. And I said, I've never worked at a hospital. I don't have any experience of that. And she goes, well, you'd be like a clerk type
registrar
thing.
type.
Yeah. And I said, well, could you give me the details of your boss then? And see if she'll be willing to see me. So she called her and she said, I said, I can do paperwork and stuff, having worked in law and that, attention to detail.
Yeah.
That's all I can sort of offer you. And she said, all right, come in for an interview. So I had an interview. She offered me the job on the spot, said could I start the next day. I started nights. I was supposed to have 12 days one-on-one training with her. After 4 days, she goes, I can't teach you anything else. You start tomorrow solo. And then I went from there. I was working there, and at the time Mike was at home being a house husband because childcare was difficult and the hours I worked were long.
Yeah.
And I come home and my darling daughter is standing there at the front door with her hands on her hips. All like this, yeah. And I said, oh sweetheart, have you had a bad day? What's wrong? She goes, why did you give birth to me? I said, sorry. She said, all you do is work and sleep. And she goes, and seriously, these boys have no clue. What have they dressed me in today? And she was having a right little pouty fit. So
Yeah.
I was like, maybe I need to get a more 9-to-5 job because it's taking its toll.
Yeah.
Now, I wasn't supposed to because you were supposed to work for a year before you could transfer internally.
Yeah.
And there was a job going, again, admin only, for the Speech and Hearing Centre. And I was like, well, that'll be a more 9-to-5. Love paperwork. It'll be busy. And my boss said because of my work ethic, she was happy to let me apply for it earlier. I got the job, started working there, and then eventually there was the audiologist, Kalita, and the audiometrist, which was, I can't remember her name now. Oh my goodness. Older lady. And she was retiring. My boss said to me, why don't you apply for it? And I said, well, I don't have any clinical training experience. She goes, we'll train you. So I went to Winnipeg, done all the training. I actually took over the newborn hearing screening program for the babies. So all the babies that were born the night before,
Yeah.
I'd go around in the morning, put all the little sensors on them, test their hearing, make sure they were okay. And I took that job on. And then we used to have to go out to Cross Lake and Norway House, which are Indigenous reserves, and they have to drive over ice roads and stuff. Stay there at the nursing station for 2 weeks, do all the testing for the schools and stuff, and then come back again. So that was interesting. And yeah, I did that for a while. Then I went and worked for Chappelle FGI, because I lived in a mining town.
Yeah.
So the workers that worked in the mines had to have fitness testing before they could get the job. So we had to do drugs testing on them, and they had to have physiotherapy and check that they got the stamina and that to be under the mines, this, that and the other. Apart from the mental health stuff, because some people being under mines, they don't like it when they go down in the shaft and the compression different in the thing. So I worked there, but I did want to get into the police. Now in Canada you have provincial and federal government.
Yeah.
Two different things. Now even though I had permanent residency, that didn't afford me to apply for federal. I could only apply for provincial. And they were few and far between that they come up. Well, eventually there's a job advertised for provincial. I'm like, oh, I'm going for this. I had 2 years of psych evaluations. Well, I had to have all these different tests if I was, off my rocker, which you are,
yeah.
I had to do the testing for the firing and get 100%, this, that and the other. Finished it all, had to do a background check, and they said, God, yours is the quickest that's come through. You've got the job. The day they give me the job, my start date,
Is when all this
was
shit
the day
kicked in.
I was in the middle of a murder trial and I collapsed.
Yeah.
Had a grand mal seizure, and then they subsequently found out I got terminal cancer. They kept the job open for me for 8 months, but I was undergoing aggressive chemo and radiation. But I did get my RCMP badge, which I'll show you at a later date. I have that. So officially, I got the job.
So you was a Mountie.
I was a Mountie.
Cool.
I was a Mountie. And then, after that, I haven't worked since because my eyesight's depleted after the surgery.
Yeah.
So doing paperwork is a strain. Obviously, I can't fire a gun.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I could, but it probably wouldn't be straight. And yeah, so now my lady of leisure.
Cool. Okay, you had some sort of morbid plans for your cadaver, so to speak, what you said?
Yes, I didn't realise that cancer patients could donate organs. But because mine's in the brain at the lowest thing, all the internal organs below my head can be utilised.
Right.
So if I can save anyone, I want them to use them.
Yeah.
And then the remains, I want to be a cadaver for medical science so that future surgeons or whatever can, you know, hone their skills in chopping and cutting and this, that and the other, and then I've helped again, because I'm no use to anyone.
Right, okay.
And then I believe you get cremated and they pay for it.
Okay.
And then I would like everyone to have some of my ashes,
Yeah.
but I want a special one that says, "Here lies my smoking hot body."
You do know that we are at some point going to get a little bit of you and sprinkle you inside the haunted mansion.
Yes.
We're not allowed to, but we're going to do it. I can do it on the quiet.
Well, that's my request, so they have to do it now.
No worries.
Yeah.